Nothing to hide, and I'm gonna break it straight down the pipe for you, face to face.
Being tough gets you hurt. This is a sharp game, a skill game, a chess game, and I think people see that.
Having lost that fight, walking out of the ring, what were your memories? What did you think?
Boxing's a lot tougher than I expected.
UFC.
You don't know my ability though.
That's true. That's true.
You don't.
I don't know where you might go. I just give you where I think you're at, which I'm entitled to, which is average. Average is very complimentary.
The recent face-to-face interview between Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua was absolutely electric and gave us a front row seat to see what happens when two completely different universes collide in the boxing world. On one side of the table, you have Jake Paul, the loud and energetic guy who went from making internet videos to knocking people out in the ring. And he walked into the room full of that famous bold confidence we always see from him. Sitting right across from him was Anthony Joshua, a man who has held a heavyweight belt and stood at the very top of the mountain. And he did not need to say much because his calm silence spoke louder than words as he stared down his opponent with the intense focus of a true veteran who has seen it all.
And it's this relentless style, this forward pressure, taking lots of damage and not giving a fuck and returning that damage more than what his opponents are giving him. And that
now that everything has been signed and the fight is officially set for December 19th, the excitement level has gone completely through the roof and fans are counting down the days. Jake Paul really wanted to make a strong point that people need to stop looking at this event like it is just another internet celebrity match or a fun exhibition because he is taking this dead seriously. He knows he is going up against a man who used to hold almost all the heavyweight belts. And he admitted that fighting someone as dangerous as Anthony Joshua is a massive risk that could end badly for him.
Oh, I like the challenge. People, that's the criticism. Fight someone in their prime who's a beast. I think people just want to see me lose. That's really what the message is behind it all. And Anthony Joshua is an insane fight, but I want that challenge. We've been DMing back and forth. He wants to make it happen. He called me up, and it's looking very likely for next year.
I want to fight Anthony Joshua exclusive because I know that I will beat Anthony Joshua. I know I will beat. Knocked out, right? Yeah. He doesn't have a chin and he has no skill and he's stiff. And I love you, Anthony. We're friends. But I want to fight you.
We also have the legendary Michael Bisping, a former UFC champion who knows exactly what it takes to be a fighter, jumping into the conversation with a very interesting take on this whole situation. Bisping broke it down and explained that this fight is actually the perfect scenario for Jake Paul because it is basically a win-win situation for him, no matter what happens inside that ring. He argued that even if Jake goes out there and loses a fight, he is still going to walk away with a massive amount of respect from the combat sports world simply because he had the guts to step up and face a former heavyweight champion of the world.
The reason I say it's a win-win for Jake Paul is because, listen, if he wins, then he's beating a former heavyweight boxing world champion, certainly one of the best heavyweights of his generation, and of course, a man that is way bigger than Jake Paul. Of course, it's a win. And if he loses, it's still a win for Jake Paul because he had the balls. He was man enough. He was willing to test himself. He would prove everyone wrong, all his critics, like me. By the way, I'm not like out there on an island by myself. Everyone says the same thing. And he would potentially prove all of those critics wrong. Well, yeah, he would, maybe, unless there's some funny business, right? And for Anthony Joshua, as I said, this is kind of a lose-lose, right? Because if he wins, people are still going to say, well, you only beat Jake Paul, right? The man that lost to Tommy Fury, after all, right? That's the only loss in his record, Tommy Fury. You're telling me that Tommy Fury is going to beat him and then Anthony Joshua's not going to beat him? So if he beats him, he gets no credit. And if he loses, then holy shit. Can you imagine? That would be the biggest downfall of any boxer's career. The reality is, he's not going to lose. There is no way on this earth that Jake Paul can beat Anthony Joshua in a boxing match. That's just a fact, okay? Look at what he did to Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou hits as hard as a Ford Escort, going 100 miles an hour or whatever that stat was. comes from the UFC. He was the UFC heavyweight champion of the world. Has a good go against Tyson Fury, but goes up against Anthony Joshua and gets flatlined. Every single punch that was thrown was landed, and every punch that landed put Francis Ngannou down, okay? So to stand there and think that Jake Paul, who's much, much smaller, who has way less experience, that doesn't weigh anything near him, is going to have a chance, and not to mention...
is a natural heavyweight who usually steps onto the scales weighing between 252 and 255 pounds of solid rock-hard muscle. That means Joshua is coming in with a size advantage of over 50 pounds, which is huge in the fighting world, where even a few pounds can make a difference. Anthony Joshua has spent years facing some of the toughest and most dangerous opponents in the boxing world. He's been in real battles, under huge pressure, against fighters who were already proven at the highest level.
Realistic that was going to be. I legit think it was probably close to happening. Now you're telling me there were discussions and potentially, signed to fight Gervonta Tank Davis. And again, I do believe the reason for that is Jake's massive size advantage. Again, that's like a 100-pound weight advantage. How would that even work? Like, how do you even... Never mind. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because it's not official and I don't think it's happening. So let's just not even broach that subject. But let's talk about the Anthony Joshua fight. And I want to hear the clip again because I just can't believe what I'm hearing. Let's play it again.
I know my boundaries. I want to fight Anthony Joshua exclusive because I know that I will fucking beat Anthony Joshua's ass. I know I will
just got knocked out, right?
Yeah. He doesn't have a chin and he has no skill and he's stiff. And I love you, Anthony. We're friends. All this shit, but I want to fight you.
So Jake says he wants to fight Anthony Joshua. He says he's gonna beat Anthony Joshua's ass. That he doesn't have a chin. That he has no skill. And that he's stiff. And then you hear Derek again with the porn creeper stash chime in. Didn't he just get knocked out? Yeah, by Daniel Dubois, who is a reigning heavyweight champion of the world. Not that that means anything at all, I don't guess. Yeah, Jake's just flat out wrong here with a lot of his critiques of Anthony Joshua in comparison to himself. Like, if you want to say for the elite heavyweights in the world that Anthony Joshua has a little bit less skill and is more stiff than they are, then okay, but Anthony Joshua is still an elite heavyweight in the world. And then to go as far as to say, I will beat Anthony Joshua's ass, that he doesn't have a chin, no skill, he's stiff. Like, again, Jake can have this opinion. And he says that, that we're friends and I love you, but I want to fight you. And Jake may even believe that, but he's just wrong. Like, Anthony Joshua took heavy shots against Daniel Dubois before he was knocked out, and really, the reason he was knocked out is because he got in a firefight and threw an uppercut as a lead because Ben Davidson was...
Dana White has never taken Jake Paul very seriously, and he hasn't tried to hide it. He said many times that he stopped paying attention to Paul the moment Paul lost to an actual professional boxer. To Dana, most of Jake's previous matchups weren't real competitive fights, but more like pay-per-view publicity events. When Paul's team once threatened legal action over accusations of fixed fights, Dana simply laughed it off.
Coming into his own, man. That's what that is. He's only like 27. That guy's fucking scary. He's dangerous. Going into that fight, it seems like he believed that he was just going to dominate him. He was so aggressive. He was just in the pocket constantly, just forcing Joshua to go to war. It was wild.
Everybody was like, look, to Joshua, I think you're done.
Right after he knocks out Francis Ngannou, and it's like, everyone's like, you're back.
Yeah.
Flattened Francis Ngannou, and everyone's like, oh, Joshua's back.
Tommy Fury didn't hold back at all when the idea of Jake Paul fighting Anthony Joshua came up. He called the entire thing a joke and said Paul is dreaming way too big. Tommy reminded everyone that he already beat Jake Paul, and he did it even while dealing with a serious hand injury. He used that moment to show just how far behind Paul really is, and to question whether Paul has earned the right to talk about fighting someone as accomplished as Joshua.
You see the fight that's reportedly being worked on for December 19th in Miami.
Did I see the fight being worked on December 19th in Miami?
Yeah.
No.
Do you know which fight I'm talking about?
No.
Fair enough.
Oh, Jesus. That's a fucking bad idea. That's a bad idea. But let me tell you what. A lot of people will watch that one.
Will you watch it?
Sure. You know what everybody's tuning in for on that one. I think everybody's going to get what they find.
On the other hand, Tyson Fury has taken a completely different stance and delivered one of the boldest predictions anyone has made about this matchup. Instead of dismissing Jake Paul, Tyson said he truly believes Jake would knock out Anthony Joshua if they ever fought. He didn't hesitate or soften his words. He flat out claimed, Jake Paul chins AJ 100%.
If I can beat Jake Paul, then excuse my French, what the fuck is Anthony Joshua going to do to Jake Paul? I think my dad said that AJ could beat him with his prick, and I completely will back that up. Even if AJ had a broken arm in there, it still wouldn't go past a minute. To be quite honest with you, and as a safety aspect, there's no way that fight can go ahead. At the end of the day, my God, how good does it make me look? He gets beat by Jake Paul. Well, that automatically makes me two-time heavyweight champion of the world, doesn't it? There's no proper way. I've got to laugh about it. How are we even talking about this? He got his nut boxed off by me a little over 2 years ago, and now all of a sudden he's talking about fighting Anthony Joshua. It's like, come on. Like, you can't be serious. You can't beat me. I'm not Anthony Joshua, am I? So
Tyson Fury has doubled down on his belief by saying this wouldn't be a mismatch at all, but a true 50-50 fight. In his eyes, Jake Paul has enough power and confidence to make a completely even matchup with Anthony Joshua.
I think Jake Paul knocks out Joshua, seriously.
Jake Paul chins AJ, yes, they fight.
Are you serious?
100%.
Paul calling him out.
I think it's a good fight. I think it's a real 50-50.
Tyson Fury's prediction stirred up a huge reaction across the boxing world, with fans and analysts openly questioning how serious he was and whether his claim had any real basis. Many people believe Tyson is exaggerating or simply trying to create hype.
So Tyson Fury just comes out with an interview saying that he thinks Jake Paul will knock out Anthony Joshua. I think this is probably like a troll attempt to get Anthony Joshua to fight Tyson Fury, but then again, I don't know. Maybe Alexander Usyk did more damage than we thought. I think Jake Paul knocks him out, Fury told Ring Magazine when asked about Paul versus Joshua. I just think Jake Paul would knock out Anthony Joshua out. I think Jake Paul is on the rise. I like his new heavyweight look, a bit chubby, a bit bulky, getting there. And he just did a great job over the aging. I mean, fool's like almost 40, you know, and he like was not a fighter for a long time or a boxer. You know, he's just in it for the check and the name value of his dad, you know. Aging Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., he was a middleweight, but still. I like how Jake Paul calls out the full spectrum from featherweight to heavyweight. Who'd he call out? Tank Davis and Joshua? That's just crazy. I see Richter scale call-outs. Exactly. I will say, I don't know, Gervonta Davis could beat him too, even though he does outweigh
Jake Paul definitely knows how to stir things up, and some people enjoy the entertainment he brings. But for many boxing fans, his habit of calling out legendary fighters has become irritating. Critics say he still hasn't proven himself as a true boxer, and that these bold call-outs aren't about competition or earning respect.
Some talk about possibly Joshua using Jake Paul as a tune-up to fight you. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know about tune-up. I think Jake Paul knocks him out.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Why so? What impresses you about Jake Paul?
I just think Jake Paul would knock AJ out. I think AJ's a spent force, and I think Jake Paul's on the rise. I like his new heavyweight look. Bit chubby, bit bulky. Getting there. That's protected. And he just done a great job over the aging Chavez Jr., who was a middleweight, but still. Sure. Yeah. I like how Jake Paul calls out the full spectrum from featherweight to heavyweight. Do you know what I mean? Who did he call out? Tank Williams and Joshua. That's just crazy. That's what he called Richter scale call out.
Stephen A. Smith has been very clear about how he feels regarding Jake Paul's choices in the ring, especially when Paul decided to fight Mike Tyson. Smith criticized the move, saying that if Jake really wants to be taken seriously as a boxer, he should face opponents who are closer to his own age, skill level, and experience, instead of calling out legends like Anthony Joshua, fighters who have spent their entire lives competing at the highest level. Smith believes Jake should be proving himself against active boxers who are still in their prime.
I want to fight Anthony Joshua exclusive because I know that I will beat Anthony Joshua's ass. I know I will
just got knocked out, right?
Yeah. He doesn't have a chin, and he has no skill, and he's stiff. And I love you, Anthony. We're friends. All this I want to fight you. I will beat Canelo.
Stop the tape now. I'm going to keep this short and sweet. The thing I respect about Jake Paul is his strategic selection of opponent. The retired NBA player, the mixed martial artist who does not specialize in striking, and a almost approaching 60-year-old Mike Tyson. But Anthony Joshua's skills are 1,000 light years ahead of Jake Paul's. Anthony Joshua, Mr. 28 wins, 25 knockouts, 4 losses. Anthony Joshua has been in the ring with real fighters. His resume speaks for itself. I just have one thing to say. Jake Paul, you can't play boxing. Trust me. Just stay in your...
Stephen A. Smith has repeatedly questioned the level of competition Jake Paul has faced, pointing out that most of Paul's opponents have either been non-boxers or fighters who are well past their prime. This has made many fans doubt how serious Paul truly is about climbing the boxing ranks. Jake, however, pushed back by saying he did try to fight Tommy Fury again, but claimed Fury backed out because he was scared. That defense became a major talking point because the Tommy Fury fight remains one of the few times Jake stepped into the ring with a young, active boxer in his natural sport, and he lost.
Out of hype at this particular moment in time. Now, I'll give Jake Paul credit for this. At least he's in the ring with a boxer. But 57 years old is 57 years old. And 57 years old and formally walking into a UFC fight as an audience member, as a patron with a cane, it's hard to me believe a year later that you're going to be in any condition to really, really fight. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't know. And if you're Jake Paul, here's what I want to say to you. It's Mike Tyson, that's fine. It's a money fight, I get you, and you want to make money. But at some point in time, if you keep telling us that you're taking boxing seriously and you want to be recognized as a big-time boxer / fighter, you're going to have to fight somebody closer to your age, who is a contender at the very least in the sport and who lives with it every single day. Could you please get in the ring with somebody? Pretty please with sugar on top. I'm interested.
What did you think about the fight, Jake Paul?
I hate it. And Jake Paul's starting to piss me off. Mike Tyson is 57 years old, man. Jake Paul been training with professional boxing trainers for years. He takes the sport very seriously.
Thank you. So let me ask you, that's the question I have, because great kid, great businessman, by the way, amazing. And I know how he does all this, the character and the persona. We keep saying that he doesn't want to be a boxer. He's not a boxer. But then
Jake Paul is a boxer.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my point.
Exactly. He's a boxer.
He can fight. I respect it. So go in there against fighters. You should be climbing the ladder towards those other fighters and taking the sport seriously to the point where you're fighting actual boxers. Now he decides to fight a fighter, a real fighter, which is Tyson. But Tyson is 30 years older. Stop this nonsense of going against dudes that either ain't boxing or is 25 years removed from the sport.
Despite all the criticism surrounding this potential matchup, the money involved is impossible to ignore. Reports suggest that both Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua could walk away with around $92 million each, creating a combined purse of roughly $184 million. That kind of payout is massive and easily ranks among the biggest paydays of their careers. For Jake Paul, it's a life-changing financial victory, no matter what happens in the ring.
Are beating up on dudes who don't box. They're not boxers.
I was on Disney Channel while these guys were winning UFC championships.
Okay.
You know, I was playing with Mickey Mouse while these guys were throwing arm bars and winning UFC championships. Everyone's, analyzing my career, critiquing it, paying attention to it from day one, but you can't tell me who was Mike Tyson's first fight. You can't tell me who Muhammad Ali, who was his fourth fight. No one knows, but everyone's seen all of my fights. I tried to fight Tommy Fury. Yeah, I tried to fight Tommy Fury, and he backed out due to a rib injury. Undefeated, young prospect. He comes from the Fury family. His brother's the heavyweight champion of the world.
The real question now is what happens if this fight actually goes down? Will Jake Paul pull off the kind of upset that no one sees coming and completely shock the world? Or will Anthony Joshua step into the ring, handle business with experience and power, and show everyone that this was never anything more than a huge money mismatch from the start?
Lose for Anthony Joshua. However, given all of that, both men are going to make $92 million each. So forget my opinion. Who gives a damn? When you can bank $92 million for having a little move around in a boxing ring, fair play. You can't on that. However, let's talk about it. The reason I say that it's a lose-lose we'll start with Jake Paul first. The reason I say it's a win-win for Jake Paul is because, listen, If he wins, then he's beating a former heavyweight boxing world champion, certainly one of the best heavyweights of his generation, and of course, a man that is way bigger than Jake Paul. Of course, it's a win. And if he loses, it's still a win for Jake Paul because he had the balls. He was man enough. He was willing to test himself. He would prove everyone wrong.